Indiana just flipped the script on OKC, and we are one game away from a new NBA champion. So Game 7 just wrapped up, and I'm not going to lie to you, I stopped watching the game like halfway through the fourth quarter because the game was so clearly over at this point. Indiana had dominated OKC for majority of the game, and by the time the fourth quarter came, both teams had put in their reserves because it was time to get ready for Game 7. And I'm very excited for Game 7, I'm not going to lie. Now, before we talk about Game 7, let's talk about what happened in Game 6. So Game 6 kind of was like Game 4 a little bit. OKC was struggling at the start of the game. Indiana came out firing. Now, OKC did start off pretty strong in the sense of their defense was very strong. And Indiana was struggling once again to penetrate that defense and get to the paint to create those looks that they usually get. Indiana's motto all playoffs long has been drive and dish, drive and dish. In this game and last game, they haven't been able to drive, and so they haven't been able to dish. But this game, they were shooting the lights out and not making the shots per se. They were just shooting the ball a whole lot. They were shooting it up, getting a bunch of shots up because it was behind 3 in this Game 6 and it's do or die. If it's Game 6 and it's do or die, you're going to do whatever you want or whatever you can to win the series, and that's exactly what happened in this game tonight. They were shooting the ball, and at one point, they finally caught fire like they tend to do all throughout this playoffs. They caught fire, and they were just making shot after shot after shot after shot. And OKC actually was keeping it relatively close up until the second quarter when Shea went out. OKC was keeping it close. The defense was real well. Jalen Williams had started off very strong. He got a couple dunks, got a couple good looks. Shea was getting to certain spots on the court from the elbow. So it looked like we were in for a very close and maybe a classic Game 6. Then the second quarter happened and everything changed. In the second quarter, the Indiana Pacers would end up going on a 17-2 run up against the Thunder. It seemed like once Shea came out, the Thunder went from being, close, competitive in the game, competing as you would expect, to completely being outmatched by the Pacers. The Pacers were making every single shot. Pascal Siakam had one of the best stretches I've ever seen. Indiana was finally doing good at leveraging Pascal Siakam and getting him some of the easy looks. Andrew Nembhard came out very phenomenal. And Tyrese Halliburton, who was supposed to have a calf injury, looked relatively normal. He was very aggressive, and my mantra has stayed the same throughout this entire series and playoffs. If Tyrese Halliburton is aggressive, this Indiana team is borderline, well, not unstoppable, but a very hard team to go up against. And he was aggressive tonight. He was shooting the ball, took a couple threes. He was definitely looking to score or at least do something, create some type of offense for the team, not just strictly drive and pass. And it transferred all throughout the entire team. Andrew Nembhard had made some big shots early on, and Aaron Nesmith finally had got together, made some big threes throughout the game. And finally, Pascal Siakam, he played the lights out. Now, he had one dunk in transition where Indiana gets the turnover. It's a transition. Tyrese Halliburton gets the ball. No look pass to Pascal Siakam, and Pascal Siakam dunks it, posterizes whoever it was under the rim. I think it was J-Dub, and it was a very nasty dunk. And then he follows that up to beat the buzzer with a fade away from the mid-range to beat the buzzer, and it was a very good ending to this first half for the Indiana Pacers. They had dominated throughout the entire second quarter, and it looked like the Pacers, the way they looked in Game 4, they were dominating, and it looked like they were in good shape to win. But we had seen this before in Game 4, and we all know how that ended. Now, for OKC's point of view, I wouldn't even say that they were playing as bad as they did in Game 4. OKC just didn't look good. Like, it wasn't as bad as it was in Game 4, but it wasn't as good as it was in, like, Game 1 or 2, It was kind of weird, but it was to a point to where you were like, OKC still has a chance in this game if they just put it together. But OKC ran into the same problems that they had been running into all series. The offense stagnated. No ball movement if it's not J-Dub, if it's not Shea, going out and getting you a bucket. That offense is virtually, like, unplayable. It's not one of the worst offenses in the NBA, but it's just not a very good offense. It's not very efficient, and that bit them in the back today. You're not at home, so your role players aren't going to play as well. You didn't really get that good of a play from Aaron Wiggins or Cason Wallace or Chet on the offensive side of the ball. And these are all players who played really well for you in Game 5 and were big reasons why you won in Game 5 and why you're one game away from winning the NBA Finals. But tonight, they did not show up for you at all. And not Chet, but Shea and J-Dub, they had very underwhelming games. J-Dub finishes with 16, Shea finishes with 21, and OKC just came out there playing like it was another game, like it was another regular season game, and you just can't do that. I understand you guys have the better team, you have the defense, you'd rather win it at home, but if you guys lose Game 7, you're going to look back at Game 1, and Game 6 is games that you just had to win. Those are the ones that are going to bite you in the butt, because in Game 1, you had this big advantage over Indiana, and you end up losing. And in Game 6 tonight, you just came out very lackluster for whatever reason. Maybe you guys didn't have it. Maybe you guys just wanted to win on your home floor. Whatever it was, tonight obviously was not your night. And that just cannot happen in Game 7. And then the third quarter came, and it just was clear that this game was over. The first 3 minutes of the third quarter were one of the worst stretches of basketball I've ever seen. Neither team could make a shot. OKC kept turning the ball over. Indiana wasn't taking advantage. Then eventually Tyrese Halliburton would get like a nice little finish off the glass. That would shift a bunch of momentum towards Indiana. And I don't even know what happened from then. OKC just basically gave up. Rolled over, gave up. Let's go to Game 7. And the role players were put in at that point. And now here we are getting ready for Game 7. Some big reasons why Indiana was able to win tonight was Pascal Siakam had a phenomenal game. Pascal Siakam had as good of a game as you can ask, and he was a big reason why they won. So was Andrew Nembhard. I mean, these are two players who you needed to show up, and they did exactly that. And T.J. McConnell. I mean, if the Pacers are able to win in Game 7 in OKC, you might have to give that Finals MVP to T.J. McConnell. Like, I'm not lying. Like, I think he honestly has probably been the best player on the Pacers throughout this entire series. What he has given them, how consistent he has been throughout this entire series, should not go unnoticed, because he has been the most consistent player for the Pacers the entire season. He might not have had highs like a Pascal Siakam or lows like a Tyrese Halliburton, but when you talk about consistent play and reliability, no player in the series, really on both sides, has been as reliable as T.J. McConnell. And if they win in Game 7, my goodness. And this is a big reason why Indiana won. The role players showed up. Obi Toppin had 20 points. Role players play better at home, and that's exactly what happened. OKC's side of things, role play, everybody just played bad. Everybody from top to bottom, Shea, J-Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, Coach Mark Day, everybody was not good, and it just looked like OKC was just not locked in for Game 6 tonight. Now, with all that being said, we're going into a Game 7 back in OKC, which would be a huge game, and I honestly don't know who to pick to win. I mean, I'm going to choose OKC. I had OKC winning 6. Obviously, they're not going to win in 6, but I still have OKC winning because I think they're a better team. And going back to OKC, I just can't see OKC losing at home in a Game 7. The crowd's going to be on their side. I guarantee you those role players are going to play better. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's not going to allow them to lose. I'm sure he's going to do everything he can. I expect J-Dub to play better. I expect all these players to play better in Game 7, and I just can't see OKC losing. With that being said, Indiana, my goodness, who knows what's going to happen with Indiana? See, Game 7s are very interesting because the reason why you don't want to be in the Game 7 or do is because they're unpredictable. You can have one of your best players have one of the worst games in his career just as a Game 7, and you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. On the same token, you could have one of your role players have one of the best games of his life in a Game 7 just because he came out so motivated and he was determined to put the team on his back. This is the first Game 7 we've had since 2016, like almost a decade, 2016. And I think we all will remember what happened in 2016 aside from the block. One of the biggest reasons that game was what it was because Draymond Green comes out and he shoots the light off. Draymond Green was not a shooter and isn't one now. But in Game 7, he was basically like prime Steph out there. Like, he came out, made 5 threes in the first half, and he kept that game close for the Warriors. And something like that could very well happen in Game 7 on Sunday. Now, one thing I do know, Game 7 will be a movie. It's going to be cinema. I'm expecting big performances out of Tyrese. He looked like he was relatively healthy out there tonight. Looked like he was back to normal. So I'm expecting him to come out and hopefully he's at least aggressive. I'm expecting the OKC Thunder to be aggressive. That defense to be very, very tight. Pause. I expect that defense to be very tight, very good, very aggressive. And really make that Pacers offense work for every single shot. I expect the Pacers and Rick Carlisle to be well coached and be prepared going to Game 7. And this OKC team, I expect Shea and J-Dub to be ready. I'm just very weary on Coach Mark and what he's going to do to prepare his team for this Game 7 because he's been getting out coached all series. And in Game 7, that could literally be the difference between your team winning and losing, especially if it goes down to the wire. But these are just my opinions. My opinions are my own. Let me know how you guys felt about Game 6. Let me know how you guys feel about Game 7, who's going to win. Let me know down in the comments. That's all I got. Until next time, peace.